Hey YouTube, this is Nashtaters. Welcome back to another episode of War of Divisions. So in this episode, I really want to go ahead and finish off the final summons for the Thancred ticket pulls. And then of course, I'm going to go back and cover a little bit about Porcelain Tower that I actually covered yesterday, but I edited them out because I did not want that video to go too long for you guys. So let's go ahead and get it started. Alright, before we begin this video, I want to go ahead and just do all the summons and get them out of the way. If you have not done so, go ahead and hit that subscription button. And let's go ahead and get it going here. I'm going to go ahead and do all the free summons first, because they generally take a few seconds. And this will give me an opportunity to kind of discuss some things that I'll be doing on my channel. Now, for those of you who have been following me for quite a while now, you understand that I never claim myself to be the best player in this game, nor do I try to do a lot of guides and things of that nature, because ultimately when you do those type of things, you want to make sure you have all the correct information. So anything I do, obviously, in terms of advice, my thoughts, my suggestions, are obviously just from me, right? It's pretty abundantly clear that it's just in my opinion. And sometimes my opinion aren't always what people want to go with. And that's okay. And that's why people make videos and that's why people make content, because ultimately they're just giving them their opinions, right? They're just giving you guys their opinions. So it looks like I got Lucia and Venera. Very cool, very cool. I still need both to be finished, I believe. Actually, no, I think I have Lucia finished. So I managed to get 88 tickets. Let's get it going. And by the way, my fiance summoned, like, I think she had 100 tickets and she had zero Thancred. And that's fine because she wasn't going to build him anyway. Remember, she doesn't really like male characters. Although I did. Oh, look at that. Thancred loves this account. But to be honest, I kind of sort of forced her to summon to try to get those 300 shards. Turns out, of course, she got rain. I don't know if she's gonna build him or not, but I told her that, oh, look at that, more. I told her that's gonna be the best unit in terms of magical tank. I don't think she cares. Okay, so we have so far 50 summons and I got 35 shards. Oh, 55 shards. I'm really just pouring on the salt here, folks. Alright, looks like that's it. I still probably not going to build him, but I did buy everything from the shop, just in case, they return, and maybe he gets like a buff at level 120 or something. Alright, let's go ahead and get back into discussing the tower. The Porcelain Tower. So the Porcelain Tower comes around in this game about every 2 to 3 months. So I think it's a good thing to talk about the Porcelain Tower every single time it comes around, because we do get an influx of beginning players, and of course those beginning players from the last Porcelain Tower are probably migrated to mid-game or perhaps even end-game. So it's important to kind of discuss my personal suggestions, my personal outlook on the Porcelain Tower. But before we do that, let's go over all the different changes, because the changes do make absolute total sense. First and foremost, we're getting additional 10 floors added to the previous 30 floors. There are also going to be a new EX4 added. And if you clear the EX4, you will be getting some Rainbow Fragments of Thought and perhaps some other goodies along the way. Now, if you happen to defeat floor 40, of course, as I mentioned before, you will get the Luminous Armlet, which if you have not done so, go check out Monday's video, which will tell you the stats and ultimately what it does. And we did confirm it does get negative effects, and I think that's fine, because I think that's kind of the way the game allows us to have these nice UR equipments without having super overpowered UR equipments, because essentially every single player in this game can have access to these UR equipments without doing tons of farming. Now let's talk about changes from the previous event. It looks like the game is essentially building on top of building, and I think I actually like this formula because essentially what this game is allowing us to do is continue from the previous encounter. So for those players who have reached the previous top 30 floors and defeated it, you will start off at floor 30. But for those of you who left off wherever they ended up being, if you're like 10, 15, 12, whatever floor you were on, you will be starting there again. So therefore you don't have to start over. Now there's pros and cons to this situation, obviously. The pros would be you don't have to grind those things again, right? The ones that you've already done from the previous encounter. But bear in mind, the floor itself is reset. Therefore, if you defeat it from wherever your starting point is, once you're reset, you do have to start from floor 1. At least that's my speculation. Now here are the cons. Obviously, you do not get the rewards once you go back and defeat those floors the second time, because those rewards, generally speaking, are rewarded to us for first clears. The same concept applies to the EX floors. So once you defeat certain number of floors, the EX option will open up. If you did not complete the EX quest from the previous encounter, now you have ability to defeat them again, and if you are going to be clearing it for the very first time, you will get the first completion rewards. Unfortunately, if you clear all the EX quests from the last encounter like me, then you don't get the first clear rewards again. And essentially, they're not really worth clearing after the first time, because generally speaking, the rewards that you get after the first clear are actually pretty terrible. So if you're a beginning player or you mid-game player, just bear in mind, this tower is not your typical tower that you probably see in other gacha games. In fact, most other gacha games have monthly tower, where they'll reset at the end of each month. Therefore, you have the ability to kind of climb the tower and get a lot of rewards every single month. One example that comes to mind would be Summoner's Wars, which essentially follows that formula to a T. Now in this game, we do not actually have anything that resets monthly. Therefore, the Porcelain Tower is one of the features in this game that a lot of players look forward to every few months. Make this thing very simple. Each time you begin a floor, you have to kill a bunch of enemies of different elements or of the same elements. Obviously, the smart thing to do is bring your element that counters those elements that you foresee. But generally speaking, the first 10 floors are super easy. My personal recommendation is bring your most strongest unit or strongest units. Generally speaking, 1 to 2 is enough. Turn off all of their abilities and just let them go to town with normal melee attacks. Now here's the thing. Generally speaking, the game is designed where creatures or units of lower level will have a much harder time hitting units are much higher level. Therefore, bringing your level 99s at this point is fairly easy, because I believe at level 10 they only go up to maybe like 35 or level 40. So the chance of them actually landing a hit is not very high, and even when they do, the hits are kind of small and minimal. Bear in mind, all damages and all heals carry over from floor to floor. So you don't want to go into the tougher floors with almost no hit points left, because then you essentially will have to spend your turn to try to bring those units back up. That's why I recommend the first 10 floors, just bring your strongest units, put on a bunch of evasion gear, turn off all your abilities. The reason you want to turn off your ability is because the game likes to keep track. When you use abilities, your evocation magic, your vision card abilities, your espers, all that different things. So make sure you turn everything off for the first 10 floors, therefore saving all of those crucial abilities for the harder, challenging floors later on. Other tidbits information. Faith and bravery are not affected, just like when you do raids, they're not affected at all whether you die or not. And if a unit is KO'd where they're decided to be KO'd on your side, they will not be resurrected until you do the quote-unquote full resurrection or the full reset, which we will talk about right now. So full reset essentially allows for you to do once per day. So for the harder floors, people like to use the tactic, or people like to refer to as a zerging tactic, right? For example, let's say you get to floor 29 and you're having a hard time beating it, and you send all your forces in, and then of course you get annihilated. But you manage to kill a couple of enemy units. When you reset again, the enemy units stay the same. The dead ones are dead, the alive ones are alive, and the abilities and the skills or whatever that they have used remain whatever they were. Therefore, your team is fully recovered, so you want to go ahead and send your wave again and try to do the same thing over and over. This tactic is pretty much used by almost every player in this game, even on people who probably spend a lot of money. Simply put, some of these enemy units are kind of fairly rough. So even if you have strong units, you may not be able to take them down with just your set teams. Here's some other advice I want to give. At the end of those tough floors in this tower, for example, in this case, let's say it's floor 39. A lot of those units are super tough. They're like equivalent to boss HP, boss damage, boss defense. So you can actually send a bunch of your scrubs, right? As long as they're above level 20, and just kind of send waves in if you don't care about your score. This is important. If you care about your score and you care about your ranking, this is not a good tactics to use. But if you don't care, like me, just send them in, and then what essentially it does is it allows your enemies to use up their APs, to start using up their skills. Now mind you, they have tons of skills, but the crucial part here is making them drain their TPs and APs is very good, because essentially what they'll end up doing is they wouldn't be able to bust out AP skills on you right away if you keep draining them. So when you do finally send in your strong 5-man team, then they're going to be forced to move rather than attack you right away. And that should give you a much better starting point. Now let's talk about terms of rewards. In rewards, you will get the tie ring if you clear floor 30, just like before. If you clear 40, you will get the luminous armlet. But we used to be able to get the Crimson Saber on floor 20, but they have since removed it. As long as you actually just gain medals for each floor clear, you will have the ability to gain the Crimson Saber, which is essentially the best sword for rain. For those of you who are looking for this, you have to understand there's a higher chance that you will not be able to gather awakening materials for the tie ring and the armlet, because simply you will have to reset multiple times. And after the first reset, all resets after that will cost you gems. Now mind you, it doesn't cost a whole lot, maybe like 100 or 200 or 500, something like that. If you value these items and you value the awakening materials more so than your gems, I recommend definitely doing it. But if you value your gems a lot more, maybe you have to start thinking about whether or not to reset. Personally, set yourself a goal. Don't need to really go above that goal unless you have extra free time. And I think at the end of the day, you need to figure out which is making you having fun and which of the situations is not. Because after all, it is just a game and the tower will always return. But bear in mind, if you waste too much time on it and you're not getting what you're wanting, then you're not gonna have fun most likely. Alright, that's all the time I have for this video. I hope this video has helped out the beginning players and the mid-game players. And for those excellent veteran players, obviously there's not much to see other than perhaps the Thancred summons. So until next time, take care of yourself and all your loved ones, and remember, time is your most valuable resource as a human being. Cherish it and spend it wisely. Nashtaters and his family out of here. Peace.